Welcome to the Cedar Falls regular City Council meeting this June 3rd, 2019. I will now call the meeting to order and ask for a roll call from Madam Clerk, please.
Miller.
Here.
DeBoer.
Here.
Cruz.
Here.
Blanford.
Here.
Dara.
Here.
Whelan.
Here.
Green.
Here.
All members present, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Next item is approval of minutes. Is there a motion to approve the regular meeting of May 20th?
So moved. Second.
Motion second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Now I'd like to have a couple moments here to read a proclamation for the Family Health and Fitness Month. It reads, whereas Family Health and Fitness Month was established to provide green spaces to help keep our communities healthy, and whereas 1 out of 4 people are living with diabetes or prediabetes, and Get Growing program can encourage lifestyle changes that prevent or delay the onset of disease. And whereas gardens provide connections to nature, which studies demonstrate benefits related to stress relief, stronger interpersonal relationships, and improved mental health. And whereas having gardening and planting skills has been known to encourage and develop a taste and desire for more fruits and vegetables in both children and adults. And whereas evidence suggesting that developing cooking and food preparation skills can have a long-term positive impact on health and nutrition choices as a child grows. Now therefore, I, Jim Brown, Mayor of the City of Cedar Falls, do hereby proclaim the month of June as Family Health and Fitness Month, signed this 3rd day of June 2019. I believe we have Luann Almeida to come up and her partners. Some Lions volunteers, it looks like. Welcome.
Yes. Thank you, Council, and thank you, Mayor. When I visited Orchard Hill School, as I do as part of a volunteering project, and I read them a book, I asked them, who wants to be healthy? Every single hand went up in that classroom, as well as other classrooms. And so that's one of the reasons why we are doing this project. And when I read to them, I asked them, what does it take to grow a garden? I didn't expect this answer from 2nd graders. They said it takes synergy, cooperation from multiple venues in order to create a goal. And so this partnership is something that I have been working on with Unity Point. They were not able to be here tonight. And also our Lions Club, whose international goal is to decrease diabetes, and also the Cedar Falls Public Library. So together, we are going to make this goal. It's a prime example of how we are going to continue the wellness of a Blue Zones healthy hometown. We know that 1 out of 5 of our children only play outside once a week. With this garden and its community partners, we will be introducing the children to time outdoors, healthy options, cooking techniques, where children gain skills to improve overall health. Together, we will serve. And Unity Point wanted me to also extend this, that they are totally committed to this program for many years, multiple years, people of all ages, and that they want to enhance the quality of life here in Cedar Falls. This program will start next week. So through the Cedar Falls Public Library, you can register your child, and we will get growing. Rich?
Sure. First of all, I'd like to wish you a happy birthday again, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
And thank you for your service to the citizens of Cedar Falls and to your forward thinking and leading the city into the 21st century. The Cedar Falls Lions Club is also looking to the future and to the future health of its citizens. And we are proud to partner with Unity Point to do our part to bring about diabetes awareness by creating this diabetes learning garden. And to show people how to grow nutritious food and to gain much needed exercise. I invite you to come out and look at the garden. It's not like any garden you might think. There are 10 raised beds that the Lions built. We moved 16 tons of soil last week in there, and we will move about 8 tons of mulch tomorrow to finish it off. So again, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and the members of the council for your support in this project.
Thank you, Rich.
And you will all be invited to the harvest party that we have planned in relationship to this garden. Because this is a model that we hope that other medical health facilities take on. It's the only one of its kind in probably a 500 square mile area that I know.
Great. Are we invited to move the mulch tomorrow, too?
You can do whatever you want.
9 o'clock.
Yes. So send all those little faces and those little people to get growing.
Great. Thank you very much.
Yes, the garden,
The gardens at Unity Point
Unity Point facility.
at Prairie Parkway. Yeah, this has been a dream of mine, and Unity Point, like the children said, it was synergy.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Moving on to the next item, any agenda revisions, Madam Clerk?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, item 36 on the resolution calendar is being removed from the agenda.
Item 36 is removed. Anything further?
That'll be it.
Thank you. Next is special order of business. Item 2 is a public hearing on a proposed agreement for private development conveyance of certain city-owned real estate to Owen 5 LLC. Is there a motion to receive and file proof of publication?
So moved.
Motion second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Any written communications filed with the city clerk?
I have no written communications on file, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And before we go to oral comments, I think Shane Graham, our development coordinator, will speak on this public hearing.
Thank you, Mayor. I've been working with Mr. Joe Owen of Owen 5 LLC for the past several months now. He's actually with the company Cunningham Construction. If that name sounds familiar, they're currently located on Center Street. Right now, Mr. Owen will be taking over the company fairly soon and would like to expand the business. Their location right now is located on Center Street within the floodplain and on a fairly small lot. As the company grows, they would like to expand the business and move out to the North Industrial Park. They've found a lot just west of Standard Distribution on about 3.9 acres, where they would like to build a new 10,000 square foot building, and then have, this will enable them to have some storage area for some of their equipment as well. So much better setup at where they're at now. Construction would occur this summer, and he would hope to be into this new facility by early next year. So staff would recommend council approve the agreement. This would just require the donation of the land. There are no other tax incentives involved with this project.
Thank you, Shane. I'll now open up for public comment. Hearing and seeing none, to declare the hearing closed. Item 3 is a resolution approving and authorizing execution of an agreement for private development with Owen 5 and approving and authorizing execution of a quick claim deed conveying title to certain city-owned real estate to Owen 5. Is there a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Open it up for discussion. Council? Requires a roll call vote, please.
All voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Next item is old business. Item 4 is pass ordinance 2940, amending Chapter 2 of the Code of Ordinances relative to reorganization of city operations upon its third and final consideration. Is there a motion?
Second.
Motion and second. Anything further from council? Roll call vote, please.
All voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Item 5 is pass ordinance 2941, amending certain sections of the Code of Ordinances relative to the renaming department and programs upon its third and final consideration. Is there a motion, please?
Second.
Motion second. Any further discussion from council? Roll call vote, please.
All voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Item 6 is pass ordinance 2942, amending Chapter 15 of the Code of Ordinances in conjunction with the reorganization of city operations upon its third and final consideration. Is there a motion, please?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion second. Discussion? Roll call vote, please.
All voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Item 7 is pass ordinance 2943, amending certain sections of the Code of Ordinances to be in conformance with the Code of Iowa and consistent with current city operations upon its third and final consideration. Is there a motion, please?
So moved.
Motion second. Council comments? Roll call vote, please.
All voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Item 8 is pass ordinance 2944, amending Chapter 2 of the Code of Ordinances relative to updating terminology in conjunction with the implementation of recommendations from the downtown parking study upon its second consideration. Is there a motion, please?
So moved. Second.
Motion second. Any further discussion from council?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I would just ask for council if is worth the discussion of if we should suspend the rules and go to a third reading now due to issues with parking in the downtown area.
Open for discussion?
I too was wondering about that, Rob. And after checking a little bit on it, there's a lot of logistical things that have to be put in place yet, to where suspending the rules really isn't going to prove to be a benefit the way I understand it. But I too was wondering the same thing.
Any further discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
All right, Mr. Cruz, yes.
I guess my view is that if the process allows for 3 readings, it gives a chance for someone to come up with an idea or concern that hasn't been thought of and brought forward to be discussed. So I'd be inclined to go with the regular process.
Sure. And it does require, I believe, a 3/4 majority vote, so 6 out of 7 members. Mr. Wieland?
Yeah. The purpose of 3 readings has always been to make sure that anybody in the community who wants to vote gets a chance. There are times tonight when people have sent us notes saying they couldn't attend the meeting, but they're very interested in the subject. So the 3 readings is used when you have an urgent situation that requires immediate action, maybe a loss of money, and it's not a controversial issue. I don't see that this is that urgent, but that's the reason why we have 3 readings.
Thank you, Mr. Wieland. Anything further? Mr. Green? No further actions, been motion and second. Requires a roll
No.
call. What?
Actually, there was no second.
Second.
Oh, I thought Mr. Burr did.
For
Sorry.
the original or for the suspension?
No, for
No,
the
no.
original. There was nothing for the suspension. It was
Okay.
just open for discussion that I understood.
Okay, we're good then.
We're good? Requires a roll call vote, please.
All voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Item 9 is Pass Ordinance 2945, amending Chapter 23 of the Code of Ordinances relative to establishing parking regulations in conjunction with the downtown parking study. Upon its second consideration, is there a motion, please?
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion from council? Requires a roll call vote, please.
All voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Next item is the consent calendar. The following items will be acted upon by a voice vote on a single motion without separate discussion unless someone from the council or the public requests item to be pulled for such discussion. Any such requests from council? From the public? Hearing and seeing none, I'll summarize the consent calendar. Item 10 is approving the following recommendation of the mayor relative to the appointment of Kate Brennan Hall, Matthew Wilson, and Lauren Fink to the Art and Culture Board. I want to thank them for their service to the community. Item 11 is receive and file the Committee of the Whole minutes of May 20th. Item 12 is receive and file monthly reports of April 2019. Item 13 is approving the following special event-related requests: parking variances for the College Hill Arts Festival, June 21st through 22nd, street closures for Sturgis Falls, June 26th through the 30th, and parking variance for Teacher Festival, July 25th. 14 is approve applications for permits. 15 is approving permits and licenses. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Second.
Motion second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next item is the resolution calendar. The following items will be acted upon by a roll call vote on a single motion without separate discussion unless someone from the council or the public requests item to be pulled for such discussion. Any such requests from council?
29, please.
29,
Yep.
29.
29,
30, Mr. Mayor.
30,
Item 26,
26,
item 29.
29 is already pulled.
Item 17, 31, Mr. Mayor.
17, 31. Anything further from the council? From the public? Item 16. Item 16. Anyone further? 23.
It's already been pulled.
23? I didn't have it down as pulled. Okay. Anyone further from the public? I'll now summarize the items less those items pulled from the resolution calendar. Item 18 is approving and authorizing execution of a service agreement relative to fire and EMS training. 19 is approving and authorizing designation of certain streets for operation of all-terrain vehicles. Item 20 is resolution designating the dates and locations for the annual Sturgis Fall celebration and Cedar Basin Jazz Festival. Item 21 is approving and authorizing execution of a memorandum of understanding with the Blackhawk County Pheasants Forever and Quail Forever chapter relative to the Youth Habitat Project. 22 is approving and authorizing the expenditure of funds for the purchase of pavement sealing equipment. Item 24 is approving and accepting a temporary construction easement in conjunction with the Walnut Street Box Culvert Replacement Project. 25 is approving and accepting the contract and bond for the Walnut Street Box Culvert Replacement Project. Item 27 is approving and authorizing execution of a supplemental agreement for engineering services. 28 is approving and authorizing change order number 1 to the contract for the 2019 street construction project. Item 32 is approving a zoning district site plan for construction of a restaurant, convenience store, gas station, service station to be located on Lot 2 of Gateway Business Park in Cedar Falls. 33 is approving the preliminary plat at West Viking Road Industrial Park. 34 is approving the final plat of West Viking Road Industrial Park. 35 is approving and authorizing execution of supplemental agreement to the professional services agreement relative to the extension of the 2019 engineering services. And 37 is a resolution setting June 17th as a date of public hearing on the proposed rezoning of property located at 2600 Grove Street. Is there a motion to approve the resolution calendar minus those items pulled?
So moved.
Motion second. Any further discussion from council? Requires a roll call vote, please.
All voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Moving to item 16, it reads a resolution approving and adopting the city's FY20 payroll resolution. Is there a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion from council? From the public? Keep in mind that with this particular item, unless the amount to pay is what's on the agenda, anything else would not be germane.
Scott Dix, 7821 North Union Road, Janesville. I'm also the president of the Cedar Falls Firefighters Association, and I did want to speak on item 16, but it wasn't about the pay.
Sorry,
And I
it will
think,
have to be. Thank you very much. Anything further from the public? From the council? Requires a roll call vote, please.
All voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Item 17 reads, resolution approving and adopting amendments to the city's accounting policies and procedures and purchasing manual. Is there a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion second. Any further discussion from council?
So, Mr. Mayor, just move to add an amendment that Cedar Falls owned businesses receive a contract if within 1% of the lowest bid. We currently have a provision in the manual that states that if the amount is exactly the same, then the Cedar Falls business will receive the contract. And just realistically, that's never going to happen. And I've mentioned in past meetings that I felt that we should have at least some small window, and this, I believe, is the most appropriate time to bring forward that motion.
It's been motioned to amend this resolution as stated. Is there a second?
Can you just clarify?
Would you clarify that again, Mr. Green?
Yes. So this would be an amendment for the lowest bid. If Cedar Falls company is bidding within 1% of the lowest bid, then the Cedar Falls business will get the contract instead of, as it currently is written, of it having to be exactly the same.
Is there a guarantee there? That they are guaranteed that, regardless whether they're 1 or 2%, or just an option that it's an acceptable practice?
I'd say a guarantee only because in the current manual, it states that the Cedar Falls business will get the contract anyway. So we're already guaranteeing, but it's just when are they ever going to be exactly the same? And I believe that we should be promoting business within Cedar Falls since they're paying on our tax rolls. I personally like to see it 2 or 3%, but I believe 1% is reasonable for a start.
There's a motion on the table to amend as explained. Is there a second?
Second.
Been motion and second. I'll open that up for discussion.
To clarify, 1% or 2%?
1%.
Only 1%?
Correct.
Okay.
Mr. Blanford, did you have a comment? Sorry. Okay. Any further comment on the amendment? Mr. Brewer?
Yeah, what would be the legal ramifications of that?
I haven't looked into local preference. There is local preference that's stated by state statutes. I haven't studied the ramifications of how many percentage points above dead even we can go. So I'm not comfortable rendering an opinion on this, that going so many percentage points above low bid would not violate state law on local preference. Sorry, I wasn't expecting this to happen.
Do we need an amendment subject to Attorney Rogers' approval? Or
May I suggest that maybe you take up what's considered there and we take up the local preference at a at a committee meeting, because there's a lot of details in there that I think get very complicated, like what actually does define a Cedar Falls business. Is that corporate headquarters or a P.O. box? You know, I think there's a lot of other considerations that we should take into.
If you care to change or
Well,
redirect?
then we would, I understand the point. We would want to address it anyway then, in that case, for how it's written today, because it does already say exactly the same language. It's just not using the higher percentage. So I believe if there is that liability question, we'll need to address that anyway, for if it's exactly even. So I'm willing to withdraw the motion.
You can change it to have it be, you can make a motion to amend to take this to committee.
Yes, sir.
Is that what your suggestion was, Administrator Gaines?
At least that portion of it, if not, if we want to take this whole item to committee, I think that would be fine too, or just pass this item and then come back to the local
Referral process.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I'm willing to make it tidy and just withdraw the motion and
Okay.
revert.
Motion has been withdrawn. It is still on the table then as written originally in item 17. Any further discussion from council? Requires a roll call vote, please.
All voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Item 23 reads a resolution approving and authorizing final acceptance of the partial demolition and exterior wall rebuild of 4418 University Avenue in conjunction with the University Avenue Reconstruction Project Phase 2. Is there a motion, please?
Second.
The motion and second. Any further discussion from council? From the public? Your name and address, please.
Sure. My name is Penny Pop. I live at 4805 South Main. The packet was very informative this week, lots of information. So when I was looking through the agenda, usually there's background information in here, but there was just one page in here. So can you explain what this project was in relation to the University Avenue project and why there was no resolution for the owners? Because I couldn't find it anywhere on the website or anything. Thank you.
Ms. Pop. I'll address staff with that if we can.
Sure, I can help answer that. So as a part of the University Avenue Phase 2 project, the intersection there at Cedar Heights and University Avenue included a change to that intersection, which then meant that we needed some right-of-way. And we had this at several intersections where we did some right-of-way acquisition at a minimum, temporary easements for grading at a maximum, some right-of-way acquisition. And so we acquired right-of-way at the northeast corner of Cedar Heights and University, and it impacted the building that was on the very west end of that building. And we did quite a bit of exploration about the different options and negotiation with the property owner as we went through that process, and found that the west part of the building was an addition at one time, many years ago. And so there was a foundation, and so we'd be able to make that modification. And so that's what we moved forward with, and also bid a project to do the remodel of that area, which was underway, but then we have run into some complications. So at this point, we need to close out the work that has been done until we can come to an agreement with the property owner about the remaining work.
Thank you, Stephanie. Any further comment on this item? Hearing and seeing none, has been motioned. Second, requires a roll call vote, please.
All voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Item 26 is a resolution approving and accepting the contract and bond for the 100 Block Alley Reconstruction Project. Is there a motion, please?
So move.
Motion and second. Open it up for council discussion. Questions?
That's mine, 26.
Sure.
This thing's not working very well, so I have to ask everybody to speak up a little bit. There are times when we get contracts with people in our community, and the owner of the business is not available to sign the contract as the legal agent of the company. And in place of that, we'll see his name signed, his or her name signed by whoever really signed it. And I just wanted legal just to go over, in cases where someone else has signed for you, what makes it legal for them to do it? And I've done it. I've had people sign my name and they put by Penny Pop. So I'm just kind of curious as to how we protect ourselves legally.
Usually, in contracts, there's a notary signature so we can ensure the person signing is actually the person who's representing to be a representative of the company. I did take a look at this contract just now we're referring to, and as far as I understand, the city has no information as to who this person is who signed for the owner, who's listed in the signature line, nor the relationship of that person to the principal. So the one I was looking at, it said somebody by someone else with no verification of who that is. I would not be comfortable accepting that signature. So it doesn't mean council doesn't go forward and approve the contract. We'll just have to have the owner sign it. Now, if this person had simply struck through the name of the owner president and said somebody else vice president, that person would have authority to sign, and we'd be fine. So the bottom line, that's a long way of saying I don't think the signature as is acceptable without some sort of letter from the owner, power of attorney, or something like that.
So now we know. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further from council? From the public? Been motion, second, requires a roll call vote, please.
All voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Item 29 is a resolution approving and authorizing execution of a transportation services agreement with Metropolitan Transit Authority, or MET, for downtown shuttle services from June 6th through August 31st of 2019. Is there a motion, please?
Second.
Motion, second, open up for council.
I was just hoping for some background from staff on this. I think it's fantastic.
Mr. Gaines, do you have anything?
So we occasionally meet with Met Transit, and one of the conversations that we had is going through looking at a shuttle. It's been discussed many times. The mayor actually had us look into what would it take to get a shuttle in the downtown area as a trial basis. So Met provided a contract, and we started working with them on that. Originally, they were trying to get a small bus. They're looking at providing, purchasing a smaller bus that they've, for the University of Northern Iowa. And my understanding, David, is that bus hasn't been purchased or delivered yet. So it will be a little bit larger bus, but it's still a bus that's going to be in the downtown area. And really what this is for is it's for a shuttle in the downtown area to help go all the way up to Gateway Park, to the parking lot, and all through the downtown area. And it's a service that's going to be provided free of charge to the patrons to hop on and hop off. So they can get to parking lots or throughout the district much easier.
And right now, the call is, although it needs to be tested, is a 15-minute loop. Is that correct?
That's what we're aiming for, is a 15-minute loop. I think one of the things that we're going to have to do is there's going to have to be some flexibility in there, and hopefully Met's going to adjust the routes and adjust the timing and all of those things as we go through there. So it's a little bit of a trial and error, but I think it's going to be a great program.
Sure. Go ahead, Mr. Blanchard.
Mr. Gaines, if it turns out to be as successful as we hope it is, will there be an option to continue it past the contract date?
Absolutely. I think what we started for is just the summer months to see how that would work. And I think the test period should probably extend up at least till the first of the year, because as you know, the downtown creates a lot of great fall time activities with students coming back and all of the Christmas activities. So that's really what we're hoping for.
Thank you.
Anything further from council? From the public? Ms. Carroll, sure, come on up.
Carol Lilly, Community Main Street. I'd just like to thank City Council and City staff and Mayor Brown for taking a look at that recommendation and moving forward. So thank you very much. We appreciate your support.
Thanks for your work, Carol, appreciate it. Anything further? Requires a roll call vote, please.
All voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Item 30 reads a resolution approving a College Hill Neighborhood Overlay Zoning District site plan for mixed-use development at 2119 College Street. Is there a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion second. I'll open it up for discussion with council. Mr. Cruz.
Thank you. I wanted to point out some things I read in the parking impact study that are worth discussing and bringing out to the public to see. There's two parts, really. In the commercial space parking demand section, they're saying that the proposed brewery would require 26 parking spaces. And I compare that to the off-street and on-street public parking that's provided in the impact area, and they have 105 spots, which are supposed to be utilized by all the businesses on the hill. So we have one commercial space being proposed that could consume 1/4 of the commercial parking spots that at least a dozen other businesses would be utilizing on the hill. So I think that's going to contribute to some density that the current bar owners might want to be concerned about, and any future growth going forward. The second thing I noticed in the residential component of the study, it talks about if we have double occupancy in the studio units, there could be anywhere from 4 to 15 parking spaces short. And they're saying that, the consultant is saying that the project would accommodate much of the parking, but if there's overflow, they would use Campus Street, Murner Avenue, Olive Street, and Walnut Street, though the vehicle owners would have to move their cars regularly to avoid parking citations. I think that's kind of bad policy on the city's part, or a developer or whoever, to rely on street parking when, in my experience for 30 years around the College Hill, there's been nothing but complaints about street parking and requiring residents to have off-street, rentals to have off-street parking. So I look at this and I see that if this is approved, like that it likely will, we need to look at strongly a resident-only parking area in the overlay to cover the resident-zoned parts of the College Hill. And I'm going to likely bring that up in the referral.
Thank you. Any further discussions from council? Mr. Boer?
I just had a question regarding the definition where it talked about the parking lot being on 925 and 1003. Has this made into one lot, or is it still 3 separate lots?
Stephanie, do you have information on that? Oh, sorry, Karen.
I can provide if Denny can show the visual that's up on the, this gives a visual of the property. There are 3 lots here, but it will be combined as all one site plan, so it will be approved as one project, so that parking will be tied to that building.
So so that parking lot cannot be later separated and built on?
It could only be built on if the parking requirements change in the future.
Anything further from council? From the public?
Good evening. Catherine Sogard, 330 Columbia Circle over in Waterloo. I'm the executive director of the College Hill Partnership. The College Hill Partnership supports this development as stated in a letter to the Planning and Zoning Commission. The partnership believes that with these recent ordinance changes in the College Hill overlay, compromise and clarification have been achieved, especially when it comes to the major concern of parking. Since this proposal meets the changes, the College Hill Partnership supports the Planning and Zoning unanimous vote to support the project. Furthermore, this project achieves several desired outcomes in the Future Forward 2025 community-wide strategic plan adopted in 2016, including to expand mixed-use developments in Cedar Falls. We want to thank city staff on their hard work to clarify and adapt our current code at the request of the community, the College Hill Partnership, developers, the Planning and Zoning Commission, and the City Council. This clarification will allow College Hill to continue to thrive and grow and adapt to the ever-changing environment in Cedar Falls. This significant investment is an opportunity to grow College Hill, offer additional jobs near campus, encourage walkability, and move towards the objective of linking the lower and upper hill. Thank you for your time and consideration, and of course your passion for the betterment of College Hill and Cedar Falls. Thank you.
Anyone further? Jim?
Greetings.
Greetings.
Jim Kearns, 3123 Cottonwood Lane. I'm here tonight to speak in favor of this project. There's several things about it that I really like. Catherine went through several of those points, but I want to reiterate the dedication and the service that the planning and zoning boards, this membership has changed out on this somewhat as they work through this particular project. And I think the due diligence they've shown This is a volunteer group, meet twice a month. I've had several friends that have been on it, some who have led it, and it's a lot of work, and I think we owe them a lot of respect. I think they had a unanimous vote on their last meeting, and so I think the respect that we all have for them, I mean, I have a tremendous amount of respect. The other thing I wanted to mention is years ago when our daughter was in UNI, we didn't want to pay the high rent, so we bought a house on 20th Street, half block off of University, and or off College, excuse me, at the Calhoun House, and we converted it to rental property. Put an extra bedroom in the basement for egress window, and made sure we had enough parking, and then got to go know some of the neighbors as some of the issues came up with the college kids. Most of the kids were great, not all. One particular incident with the garden shack behind the garage still comes to mind when I see some of our friends at various art festivals and stuff around town. So the lament of the people living there is the conversion of private homes to rental property. By having a large, professionally managed rental property in the area, I think just that simple supply and demand formula, maybe we can start to push some of those conversions from private to rental back to single-family homes again. That's my strong hope. I strongly encourage a positive vote on this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Anyone further? Anything further from council? Hearing and seeing none, it's been motioned and second. It requires a roll call vote, please.
All voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Item 31 reads a resolution approving a mixed-use zoning district site plan for a residential development on Lot 2, Pinnacle Ridge, First Edition. Is there a motion, please?
Motion to approve.
Second.
A motion and second. Anything further from council? Mr. Green?
Mr. Mayor, just a comment. I see that the site plan in question, I believe that it meets our city ordinances, so it should be approved. But I've got a quick blurb from the Des Moines Register that says this better than I could myself. I totally agree with it. It says, this is from 2016, and it says, cities shouldn't be in the business of determining what constitutes a good-looking home, but it does seem reasonable for cities to encourage residential construction where the residents, not the garages, sheds, or storage units, are the focus. Cities can work with developers to create more attractive, people-friendly neighborhoods without banning a specific housing design.
Thank you. Anything further from council? From the public? Been motioned and second. Requires a roll call vote, please.
All voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Do you have anything further, City Clerk? I think that's it, right? Anyone else in the council or public? Okay. Thank you very much. Item 38 is a past ordinance amending Chapter 23 of the Code of Ordinances to be consistent with parking regulations being established in conjunction with the implementation of recommendations from the downtown parking study upon its first consideration. Is there a motion, please?
So moved.
Motion and second. Open it for discussion with council. From the public? Hearing and seeing none, requires a roll call vote, please.
All voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Item 39, is there a motion to allow bills and payroll?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and second requires a roll call vote.
All voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any city council referrals this evening?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
I'd like to, as I mentioned a little bit ago about the resident-only parking around the College Hill overlay, I think given the developments that are taking place in the last couple of years, a number of them having no parking allocated to residential, we are using up the city-provided parking that's free, and we're seeing residents, if you want to say, encroaching out into the streets further and further around campus. So I'd like to see a discussion, or if we refer it to committee, of a resident-only parking for the College Hill overlay area in R1, R2, R3, and R4 zones.
There's been a motion by Councilman Cruz for the residential-only parking discussions, as he indicated. Is there a second?
Second.
Been motion and second. Yeah, I'll open it up for discussion. Anything further as far as clarity, Mr. Burr?
Well, just for clarification, were you saying only the overlay or in the overlay and also in all R zoning?
The R zoning in the
In
overlay.
the overlay.
And the reason I say that, we're bringing in the situation that we voted on about a month ago, no parking in Starview, Starbeck area there, where the letter provided to us by a resident there said that he witnessed students driving in, parking in the street, and then walking to campus. And what's happening is, and I see this regularly in my area where my rentals are, that commuters come in, park their car, go to campus, even college professors and staff will come in and park. And the parking consultant had already, in the preliminary presentation, said that the campus itself has a lot of available parking that's not being utilized because they charge $45 or $90 for the year. And if you implement something like a parking restriction, that you will tip the table from walking 3 or 4 blocks for free, they'll say, okay, I'll get a permit and park on campus, and it frees up the parking in the residential area for the owner-occupied as well as the renters.
Was this discussion from the one we had at CEEE, or is this policy? Is this a recommendation at this point?
It wasn't a discussion, it was just some preliminary comments that I noted that the street parking was at like 85% around the campus, around College, Olive Walnut. It wasn't anything proposed there. I'm just saying that if this is the time to do it, based on what I see in the parking study for the College Hill project, the consultant is saying that the students, that residents of this, or anybody that wants to attend or visit any of the establishments, are going to have to jockey for parking in the residential area and compete for the other residents and try to avoid parking tickets. So if we're indeed going to promote and encourage people to use the city parking lot, we want to go in hand with that, hand in hand, having a resident-only area around the campus. And it's very common around hospitals, churches, universities, any destination area where you have people coming to for a short time and then leaving. They're going to take the cheapest, most available spot to park that they can find. And this is a process to, I'd like to see a study done and review the benefits of it.
Okay, thank you. Anything, Mr. Blanford?
I guess, Mr. Cruz, I just have a couple of concerns. First of all, restricting the public parking, the concept is to have it available for all public use. My bigger concern is I'm just trying to imagine what enforcement of that looks like, how our public safety staff is going to determine whether this car belongs to Mr. Cruz or Mr. Cruz's babysitter. I don't know how, I can't imagine them trying to do that, especially in such a large area.
I could respond.
Sure.
I have lived in several resident-only parking areas. You get a sticker for your car, and either one that attaches to your windshield or hangs from your mirror, and you register with the city. It's an extremely common thing. The city of Dubuque has like 5 different zones, and it would be part of what the staff would do to investigate that. But basically, you're permitting a car. The particular one that I lived in, it was in California, and you had to bring in your registration for your vehicle and a proof of residence, like a utility bill, to the city hall, and they gave you a permit for the window, and you prove you're a resident. Otherwise, it's a free-for-all, and you have no enforcement there. As far as enforcing it, I spoke with the parking enforcement lady, and it's just a matter of driving the streets and looking for the stickers in the window or the permit hanging from the mirror. It's very common.
But what about visitors, guests, graduation parties? I mean, how are we managing that?
There's a process. You just look at what other city codes do. We're not the only city to have it. We're not reinventing the wheel here.
Mayor, I don't know if this helps or not, but through the College Hill parking study, staff has had, we've had some conversation with the consultant about, you and I, students, a lot of that, using the street. So I don't know if we necessarily need a separate referral. I think some of that we would like to talk about through the College Hill parking study. I knew Daryl had that idea about the resident parking, so those are some things that, again, I think we're trying to work with the consultant about what some options could be in College Hill on parking.
Sure. Mr. Green?
Mr. Mayor, I'm not opposed to the idea, but I feel like this would be premature to come up with a solution that hasn't necessarily had a problem just yet. So I'd prefer to wait until we see that there's a need for it.
Anything further from council? Yes.
I could respond. What Jennifer said, I think then, based on that, I could table it until we have more thoughts from the consultant. But to Mr. Green, your point, it's been a problem for 28 years that I've had rental property, that the city has continuously forced renters, landlords to provide off-street parking because the residents have always complained that the streets are full. They'll say, here's a duplex that has 8 bedrooms in it, and there's 8 people, and then there's 8 boyfriends and girlfriends potentially being there, and it fills the street. So you have a multitude of things that this can address. So the problem is here, unless you own property in the Hill area, like I have for 28 years, you may not know it's there.
Thank you. Anything further from council?
So procedurally, you would withdraw the motion for referral?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, it is being withdrawn. No referral to take action there yet. Any other referrals this evening?
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Green?
I move to direct city staff to draft an ordinance permitting monument mailboxes with a provision for limited city liability.
I second that.
Been motion second for the ordinance with the monument mailboxes. Open up for discussion with council before we move forward with the referral.
Didn't we just talk about that at committee and we voted no?
So bringing this forward, I didn't say point of order when it was time to come back and vote on the original ordinance. What we did was we voted to not go forward with an amendment for basically grandfathering existing mailboxes. So there was a second part that I would like to have council vote on to proceed forward because I'm in favor of moving to have mailboxes permitted.
Anything further from council? Been motion second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Nay.
That motion carries. It sounds like 2 nays. Any other referrals this evening? Hearing and seeing none, does City Council have any updates? Mr. Blanford?
I have a couple, Mr. Mayor, if I may. First of all, there was the first of several visioning meetings for downtown here this past Saturday. I just would like to thank the former planning and zoning members who acted as facilitators, as well as the residents, the staff, current P&Z, everyone for attending. I think it was a great meeting and a good first step, so I appreciate that. I would also like to thank our public works staff. This past Friday, I spent some time with public works staff, a group from AmeriCorps, and some volunteers from the Rotary Club of the Cedar Valley planting trees. I think we planted 87, and I really appreciate the public works staff taking the time to do it. It was a great project. We were replacing trees that were damaged by the emerald ash borer, so I want to thank Mark and his team for making that happen. I appreciate that. And then just one other one. I know you've heard it several times this evening, Mayor, but the council just wanted to wish you a happy birthday as well.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Blanford. Appreciate that.
Checks in the mail.
No, we don't sing at council meetings. Any other updates from council? Mr. Miller?
I'm hoping I'm at the right spot with this, and I was hoping for some communication with Attorney Rogers on this, but in the council packet tonight, there were some 10 pages of individual parcels that one of our P&Z members is selling for another developer or whatnot, and I was hoping for some background on the conflict of interest. I believe there's a portion of that that is in regards to a perception of an issue, and if Attorney Rogers can offer some clarification there, I don't necessarily want to see a motion, but it's alarming to me.
Sure. Per that update, can you comment on that, Attorney Rogers?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The issue of members of city-approved boards and commissions is a fairly complicated one, but basically, in order for there to be a legal conflict of interest, there must be some sort of financial or personal advantage to be gained by the matter you're passing on. And I'm, at this point at least, not aware of any such technical, legal conflict of interest. And so, with that having been said, however, there's another type of conflict of interest, and that is if one's relationship to a particular developer or project predisposes you to view a particular developer or a particular project in some sort of predetermined way. In other words, you're not there with an open mind. You've predetermined it based upon a relationship. That's also a conflict of interest, but how would we know that? That's how the person is thinking, and we can't know that. On that issue, I've received no information that any sitting Board or Commission member has faced that particular situation, which would, for instance, invalidate a vote. That's up to an individual's ethics. There's sort of related to that, though, is public perception of a potential conflict of interest. That's not a disqualifiable conflict of interest. It's an appearance of a conflict of interest. Again, that's up to the individual Board or Commission member to make that determination about will people believe that I'm preordained to make a decision on a particular project or developer. But it's not a conflict of interest that we would try to disqualify that member from participating in such a decision. There are levels here, but I want to emphasize that I've received no information thus far that would tell me that there's a legal conflict of interest on a particular matter that's been recently before any authorized board or commission with the city.
Thank you, and if I may make another point, I mean, I'm not aiming to single anybody out here. I've been accused of this too in regards to the minimum rental housing code, and somehow my business is going to do better because of my vote on that, which was not the case. And I think everybody, I guess I just want to put it out there that I hope we're all really looking at this, because I don't like hearing from folks that there's, you know, that controversy happening amongst our boards and commissions or on this council or in any way, shape, or form, because it is, I think people take it to heart, so.
Thank you, Mr. Miller.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Just as another question, is it a moot point anyway legally if it's not a he's not the deciding, or a person's not the deciding vote? So do we even have standing?
There are certain types of conflicts in which it would be important because the vote would be void, and that would be an interest in a contract would void it. Otherwise, unless for council's action or any board or commission action, unless the person with the conflict is the deciding vote, it doesn't invalidate the action. So you're correct in what you stated.
Any further updates? Mr. Wieland?
Probably just to close this conversation out. Thank you. We've got a button to push when we turn our mic on, and I'm not used to that. I work for a multi-billion-dollar company, and I worked in the purchasing department for a while. Anytime there was the slightest appearance of conflict, whoever that buyer was pulled off the job and someone else was put on it. That's how important companies take that appearance thing. I've had at least 2 people come up to me wanting to know if there was appearance of conflict within the council. And I know it's been addressed legally, and there isn't. but I just wanted to bring up the importance of how you appear to the people you represent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, could I just
Sure.
ask one question about this? I know as council members, and I don't know if we've all participated or not, but as council members, the Iowa League of Cities does training on what it's like to be a council member or a public servant of some sort. And I served on planning and zoning, and I personally don't recall ever having any kind of coaching about this kind of thing. But I'm just wondering if we don't want to think about that a little bit, some ground rules for being a board member and those kinds of things. Because I agree, even if there isn't a conflict of interest, the appearance leaves a bad taste in people's mouths. So I just think doing more to make us as public servants aware of these kinds of things, and then you have to use your own judgment, but I think a lot of people don't even think about it. So that might be something that we could do to improve that process by having a handbook or something.
Thank you. Any further updates from council? I believe, Karen, did you have an update on the related topic earlier, I think, to the thanks Mr. Blanford gave, but some continuing.
That's right, yeah. We did have the Saturday workshop, public workshop for the downtown design charrette that's ongoing, and I just wanted to mention that it's still ongoing until Thursday evening. Up on the screen, you can see there's a number of opportunities yet for the public to participate in that process. We have an open design studio at the Cedar Falls Women's Club, so anybody can stop by during those open hours and see the design team at work and see what's happening with the input that they've received from the public. And then there's a brown bag lunch and learn on Tuesday at noon, from noon till 1, if you want to bring your lunch and listen to a discussion about downtown transportation and parking and how it's different and why it matters. And then finally, at the end of the charrette week, we have a presentation by the consultant team about all the work that they've done through the week and how they've taken the input from the community and transformed that into a draft vision plan, and they'll report out that on Thursday evening at the Women's Club at 6 o'clock. All are welcome.
Thank you, Karen. Appreciate that.
Karen, you do have cards with that schedule available too.
Right, and the ourcedarfalls.com website has the full schedule on it. That's ourcedarfalls.com. And then the city, of course, anybody can call and we can give you the schedule as well.
Thank you again. Moving on to public forum, speakers will have up to one opportunity to speak for up to 5 minutes on topics germane to city business. Is anyone here from the public that would like to speak tonight? I'll just call you up, sir. Go ahead, Mr. Scan. Penny, did you have your hand up? Okay. Your name and address, please.
Jim Skane, 2215 Clay Street, Advocates for the People of Cedar Falls. 2824 is null and void. Ordinance 2824 is null and void, and because it violated state law when it was passed in 2014. It changed the government of Cedar Falls from the mayor-council form to a council-manager form of government. State law 372 says that to change the form of government, a city must do 3 things. 1, it must have a petition of 25% of the voters in the last city election. There must be an election to determine if the people want to change the form of government. 3, if the form is changed, the city council will establish an ordinance for the new form. The city council only did one of these things. It passed 2824 on June 23rd, 2014. Robert's Rules of Order, newly revised, 11th edition, on page 343 states, motions that conflict with the corporate charter, constitution, or bylaws of a society, or with procedural rules prescribed by national, state, or local laws are out of order, and if a motion of this kind is adopted, it is null and void. Ordinance 2824 did not follow the procedures clearly stated in the State Law 372. It is therefore null and void. I rise to a point of order, Mr. Mayor. Ordinance 2824, passed by the Council on June 23rd, 2014, is null and void. You must acknowledge that it is a point well taken.
Thank you. Go ahead, come on up, yeah, please.
Good evening. My name is Penny Pop. I live at 4805 South Main. And this evening, Mr. Mayor, you started out with a proclamation about a healthy Cedar Falls and our neighbors here in the room. And I'd like to piggyback on that just a little bit and talk about sustainability and a healthy Cedar Valley. Now, sustainability is a big concept that means different things to different people. It could be a bike ride instead of a car ride. It could mean planting certain plants to attract pollinators, or it could mean developers offering permeable pavers for new homes and businesses. In fact, that's all true and more. Now, you can see sustainability in action on the practical backyard tour of Waterloo and Cedar Falls. It's Saturday, June 15th, from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., and it's free, rain or shine. 6 different area homes and businesses are on the tour, showing a boatload of ideas, big and small, that everyone can try. And at each stop, you'll receive a ticket that can be turned into the finale at Single Speed Brewing in Waterloo at 1:30 for a chance to win some great prizes. The tour is sponsored by the Healthy Cedar Valley Coalition and community sponsors such as the City of Cedar Falls and Waterloo and the Dry Run Creek Project. Now, more information can be found on Facebook. Visit Healthy Cedar Valley Coalition. You can call our Waste Track Education team. You can visit the City of Cedar Falls website and click on the home page news, or you can visit the City of Cedar Falls Facebook page. It was posted today for a listing of all the addresses or a link on any of these sites. And again, it's Saturday, June 15th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., and I invite everyone to take a peek at what our neighbors are doing to keeping Cedar Valley healthy. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Ms. Pop. Anyone further? I think the back row there. Hang on a second, please. Catherine? Okay.
Good evening. Mary Jane McCollum, 807 West 2nd. Several weeks ago, you had someone here talking to you about speeding out by the new elementary school, and then someone else talked about speeding on Neola. And I live 5 blocks west of here, and we have the same problem in my neighborhood. But I'm also concerned about heading off a problem that's going to happen when First Street is closed. Let me give you a little background on 2nd Street. 2nd Street is very wide, and it's wide because there used to be a boulevard down the middle. It was similar to Searly. And it was taken out approximately 1960. And there's parking on both sides. And so you can race up and down the street from Division all the way to Walnut. It's a 6-block stretch. There are 2 double blocks there. And the side streets, Catherine, Pearl, and Olive, all have yield signs. So it's a free-for-all coming and going, and it hasn't gotten any better over the last couple of years. Those houses used to be single-family. Now most of them are rentals, so we've gone from 1 or 2 cars per family to 4 and 5. And so not only is the issue traffic, but speed. And it's already picked up some. I have not seen any plan for what's going to happen when the railroad track is closed. And so that's what I'm primarily concerned about. We're talking a 1.5-year project. And we know that people are going to weave their way through those streets trying to get to work. And I'm wondering, I've talked to neighbors and they haven't seen any plan either. So I'm concerned about how we're going to address that. I'd hate to see speed bumps put in because they're going to have to go all the way across the street because it's such a wide street. Maybe the old-fashioned stop signs like you used to be able to wheel out at schools would work. I don't know, but I don't want the neighborhood to be punished for a 1.5 years over trying to deal with speeding in our neighborhood, and I know that's going to be an issue. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before the next speaker, any questions or comments from council, the previous speaker?
Director Sheets, do you have anything you could add?
The Phase 1 construction for West First Street will be this year in 2019, and Phase 1 refers to the area between Franklin and Center Street and stretching to Walnut. And there will be a closure for 60 days starting approximately July 8th related to the railroad and replacing the railroad tracks. During that time, there'll be a posted detour route. You don't want to be quoted on that route at this point, but it takes advantage of the signal at Franklin and Center Street there, and basically takes them around that closure there. So that's what's posted in terms of encouraging traffic to use that. There's also going to be signage along West First Street further to the east, letting trucks know about the closure and encouraging different routes so that we can reduce the level of traffic as much as possible with alternatives.
Can we look at some traffic calming measures as well?
We can see what we can do there.
Thank you.
Is that accessible online? It was mentioned there's a few folks having questions. Is that explanation, or at least maybe some highlights given through the website for this project?
Yes, we do have some information about West First Street online. We also had that in the, I think it was the last Currents article, talking about kind of the phasing of construction for this project.
Thank you for that. Anything further from council? Catherine, did you have a public comment? And I'll go to you, Mr. Dix.
Catherine Sogard, 330 Columbia Circle in Waterloo, College Hill Partnership. I just wanted to invite everybody here that's here tonight and the public to the first College Hill Farmers Market, which is this Thursday from 4 to 6. We're excited because it's a street closure farmers market, and so we'll have a lot more vendors. We're gonna hopefully have some music, so it should be a really good time. Head up to College Hill, check out the farmers market, check out all the businesses, as all of the locations, all the retail spots on College Hill are full. So that's also exciting. So thank you.
Thank you again, Catherine. Mr. Dix? Thank you for coming back up, by the way. This will be more germane to city business for public comment.
Scott Dix, 7021 North Union Road, President Cedar Falls Firefighters, Local 1366. I have a safety concern I wish to bring forward. I wish to discuss the promotion of 9 police captains and police lieutenants to positions of Public Safety Supervisor Captain and Public Safety Supervisor Lieutenants. This is a huge safety concern, as the Public Safety Supervisor positions are operations positions, as described in each of their job descriptions. The Public Safety Supervisor Captains have operational command over the fire battalion chiefs, the fire captains, and the firefighters, while the Public Safety Supervisor Lieutenants have operational command over the fire captains and the firefighters. These operational command capabilities are clearly and specifically outlined in their job descriptions, and was written there as the Public Safety Administration clearly intends to put the public safety supervisors in charge at fire department emergency scenes. I can only conclude the reason this was done was to place the police in charge of all the fire officers and firefighters. This would relinquish command from professional fire officers with over 25 years of experience to public safety officers with no full-time experience here at Cedar Falls or anywhere. I fail to see how this improves the safety to the citizens of Cedar Falls. You'll have police officers who've never worked a single workday as a firefighter on shift here in charge over all the fire personnel except the fire chief. The most experienced police officer being promoted has only 7.5 months on shift at Cedar Falls Fire. To put that in perspective, a Cedar Falls firefighter is on probation for his or her first 12 months before the department decides if they're even going to keep them as a full-time firefighter. I could not find any professional fire department in the United States that such control of fire emergency scenes has ever been turned over to individuals with no on-shift professional fire experience. I would hope the City Council can see that this is a clear overreach on the advancement of the public safety program. Currently, the police officers assigned to the fire department on shift are performing firefighter and fire engineering duties. We have yet to see proficiency from them in either of these positions. Proficiency can only come with experience. I would ask that you keep them limited to minimum roles at the fire station until they can gain the years of experience that are needed to effectively perform any advanced roles. The fire officers have expressed their concerns to me, but feel they are being pressured from the public safety director and fire chief to bless these police officers off as being capable of performing fire engineering duties and now acting officer duties. If the fire officers were given written guarantees from the City Council that they would not be retaliated against, I believe they would willingly convey their deep concerns to you. From a management theory, this is both not efficient or effective. The philosophy of too many chiefs and not enough Indians means that very little gets done, as everybody wants to give orders with very few personnel left to actually do the work. Further, this would leave the fire shift personnel with 10 managers to 14 non-managers ratio. I'm unaware of any business model that would ever consider this efficient, as our fire training agencies that write our fire books call for one manager for every 5 subordinates as being effective and efficient span of control. Please keep in mind that our job is not building widgets on an assembly line, it's saving lives. And you should always want your most capable and experienced fire officers in charge of emergency scenes. I'm curious how any reasonable explanation could be made for such promotions, if not for the reason I have made above, being a simple takeover of the fire department by the police department. I respectfully request you reconsider the promotion of the 9 police officers to public safety supervisor positions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dix. Anything further from staff or council? Previous speaker, Mr. Blanford.
Chief Boswick, could you just give an outline of how the public safety command structure works, both currently and in the future, and what that management plan looks like, both on scene and at the station?
Sure, I'll do my best to answer that. The command structure currently, excuse me, currently the command structure we have operates with the fire chief at the top level. We have battalion chiefs on each shift, and then we have fire captains that are below that. What we're working towards at this point in time with the promotion of the public safety captains and public safety lieutenants, we have 4 people that we assign down there as supervisors in training. One is a public safety will be a public safety captain, and 3 will be public safety lieutenants. Those people are currently in training with our battalion chiefs and our captains down there now. They've been in training to learn the supervisory positions, and they have taken over some of those supervisory roles, some of the day-to-day operational experiences. They've also been training to learn driving, pumping, fire engineering. And the fire supervisors that are assigned to those shifts have been training them along with the firefighters. Those people that have been learning the pumping and driving have been doing pumping and driving on shift, and we have seen them responding to fire emergencies, structure fires, and operate proficiently at those scenes, driving, pumping, doing one of the more technical things of siphoning water out of a portable tank into a truck and then making it go out. It's a lot more difficult than pulling water out of a hydrant. It's a lot more difficult. So we've seen them doing that. These people are obviously in training and learning more every day. As far as safety concerns, we have seen them operate safely at fire emergencies throughout their time there. We've had what they were previously called as POCs, paid on call personnel, since 2005, I believe it was. Isn't that right, Jeff? Since 2005, they've been learning since then, and some of these people have been working with the firefighters since 2005. We have one of those public safety supervisors, well, one of those that will be a public safety lieutenant who was a professional firefighter in Winona, Minnesota. We have one that was with LaPorte City Fire Department for quite a number of years. They're very experienced. The one that's from LaPorte City is actually teaching our firefighter 1 class. And so he is obviously qualified enough to teach a class. That means you would expect that he's able to perform those functions. So we think that with the experience that they're getting and the training that they're getting, we're sending them to a lot of classes. And they're learning a lot every single day. We get reports from the fire supervisors on a daily basis as to what they're doing, and we're requiring those from the supervisors. And I would expect that those supervisors are giving us written reports. Those should be an honest written report saying that they are progressing and learning more each day. So I don't have safety concerns with those people. I think that they're doing a great job. I've been on the job for nearly 40 years in Cedar Falls as a firefighter, fire lieutenant, fire captain, fire battalion chief, and now as fire chief. So,
thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Anything further from council relates to the previous speaker? Anything follow up there, Jeff?
Oh, yeah, if I could just add just a little bit to that. So he referred to 9 promotional positions. 4 of those are working fire. The remaining are working on the police side. They will never be in charge, or I can't imagine them ever being in charge of an actual fire scene. Their duties will be more when there's a serious fire scene, when we do a callback and we're asking for more people to come in. Their assignment will be to help disseminate those people coming in. Some will need to go to the fire scene. Some will need to staff a second or third or whatever extra truck that we have available to run other calls if needed. And some of them, those people coming in may be assigned to the police side to help supplement the police if that would be needed, or for some of the public safety officers on the police side are going to spend a longer term period on the fire scene. As far as the driving and pumping goes, they're required to get a chauffeur license. They've had dozens and dozens of hours of training in driving the vehicles as well as pumping water. They are checked off by the supervisors before they're ever allowed to perform those duties. And as the fire chief indicated, they are currently doing that. There's some of them that have been checked off and are operating fire trucks daily and have actually pumped it at some of our fire scenes, so we don't have any concern about that. We do have several supervisors on the fire shifts, but we have over 60 firefighters in Cedar Falls, so we have a lot of firefighters that are working the police side and that are the public safety officers. So the need for supervision is a little bit more than just those on shift. But we do have, are looking at our plans for the future, our org charts. We have 2 supervisors that have submitted resignations far in advance, notifying us of their retirement. So we're preparing for those retirement dates as well. So we will be lowering the number of supervisors in the future. And I just would like to comment on a fair retaliation. I think it might be more appropriate for me to give them a guarantee that there'll be no retaliation if they come forward with safety concerns within the fire department. But I am here to agree 100% with the fire chief that we don't have any safety concerns here. And if we do, we'll or any concern of anywhere, we'll regroup, discuss, retrain, whatever it is that we would do, or any city department would do at any time.
Anything further? Mr. Rhodes?
Mr. Mayor, Director Olson, can you expand upon the comment about some of the new hires were veteran firemen already before they came to Cedar Falls?
Yeah, we've actually had several that we've hired that were firefighters before they came to Cedar Falls, and I know the fire chief mentioned one was a firefighter full-time for 2 years in Minnesota City before he came here. Many of them were volunteers in other communities and come to us with their Firefighter 1 certification, hazmat certification. We recently hired one that even went through the pumper driver operator certification process too, so we have several that have. Those that haven't, we put them through the classes ourselves. And some of our public safety officers now, early on, some began the program in 2005, but some of them are 3-4 years now into it. So, you know, they're developing some good skills.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Just for some clarification, from the public safety director, he said that, as I understand, the public safety supervisors, he doesn't anticipate them ever being in charge of an actual fire scene, but is that something that they're qualified to do, or they should be qualified to do?
Well, so some of the public safety supervisors are assigned to fire. And those individuals, at some point in their career, we assigned 4 to the fire department in October of last year. At some point in the near future, you know, they will be able to take charge of a fire scene. Some of them actually have under the supervision of other fire supervisors at the scene. So we feel very comfortable with that. Now, my statement that some will not will be the ones assigned to the police side. So when you have a fire that occurs, you will have the firefighters assigned to the fire station go to that. They'll be met up with the public safety officers, and we've mentioned many times a public officer. When I say meet, I mean they may be there before, at the same time after, but the timing is very close. And the fire supervisor working the fire shift for the day will be in charge of that scene. The public safety supervisors on the police side that will either are currently working or will come in off duty will pick up that responsibility of managing the people that come in off duty. You may have anywhere from 5 to 25 people coming off duty, and there's a lot of management of who's going to the fire scene, who's going back to police patrol, who's going to staff that other truck in case we have other calls. Maybe we have to bring a tanker truck out there, other equipment, rotate people in and out. There's a lot of decisions to be made. So that's the decision that they'll be making on the scene. And it could be a fire supervisor that comes in off duty too, but you know, we've had a problem with callbacks and getting supervisors in, you know, in the past. So that's the whole thought process. So when I said they will not take charge of the scene, I'm referring to the ones on the police side.
Anything further from council? Yes, Mr. Miller.
Chief, proficiency was mentioned, and I guess I'm struggling with that, or the lack of confidence in our PSOs. There's an expectation, and I don't know how far we go into this here, but there's an expectation of our existing firefighters to work with PSOs, passing along historical knowledge or any type of that as new, whether firefighter or PSO, somebody new comes down to that station, there's an expectation that the senior people are going to work to help move that proficiency along. Are you seeing that?
With some firefighters I am, with others I am not. To me, moving a public safety officer to a fire shift is, I'm going to say this in 2 different ways. One way is no different than hiring a new individual and making them a firefighter, except that they've already had, it could be 6 months, it could be 3 years of experience on our department, and we're shifting them from the police side to the fire side. So, you know, it's a great method of moving people between our departments that are fully trained. They're trained by our firefighters. But yeah, there is, to get to the bottom of your question, some we are, some we are not.
I understand the contention of the program, but I guess I struggle with that. I don't, if you really want to talk about our community safety, which I don't personally think there's any issue with at this point, then there takes some cooperation, and the historical knowledge needs to be passed down, and the proficiency is not going to improve in a relationship that doesn't foster people to grow into their positions.
If I might just add one thing, we've been doing this for a number of years, and we haven't had any bad incidents or any incidents to show that this is not working, that they're not competent, they're not capable. Occasionally you run into an individual, you say, hey, we need to pick it up and do some training, but that occurs in all divisions with all employees in any operations. But for the we've had a huge number of successes with this. Our number of firefighters responding to fire scenes has increased significantly. And the number on the police side has also increased too as a result of this model. So it's just a great model. It's working well. I realize we're meeting some resistance, but it's a great model.
Anything further from council? I have a question for you, Director. The previous speaker from Janesville happened to kind of indicate that what we're doing here is anti-firefighter. Would you please comment on that? And I just want to make sure folks realize that even myself, and took 2 council people and staff down a year and a half ago to those 3 shifts and asked those firefighters, we need you, we want you, you're going to be part of something great in this community. And I think they left on the false premise that we weren't safe. But I want to ask you as a director, or Chief Boswick, if he has any insight in terms of being anti-firefighter.
Yeah, we're certainly not anti-firefighter. You know, what we're actually doing here is we've increased the number. As indicated, we have over 60 firefighters now in Cedar Falls. Many are cross-trained. So we have more than we had before. We have more responding to calls. We are not anti-firefighter. We need our firefighters. We want our firefighters. We're always going to have a fire department. We're just doing it a little differently than what we have in the past, and it's a much more efficient model, and it's actually our responses are better than they have had in the past. So it's certainly not, and there's no anti-fire sentiment here whatsoever. You know, we ask for help, we want help. As you indicated, we've been down the fire station and met with shifts and talked to shifts, but there's just some resistance to that old traditional model.
Last, excuse me, another thing I was going to mention is being anti-union, but technically we're plus how many Teamster union members?
Yeah. So yeah, I've heard some of those comments too. So the public safety officer is in a union. It's just a different union because the public safety officer job class was created and adopted by the Teamsters Union, which is the police union. When you become a public safety officer, whether you're on the police side or the fire side, you stay in that Teamsters Union. You don't flip over to the IFF, which is the our local 1366 fire union. You stay in that Teamsters Union, and so we don't have less union members. I think we actually have a few more than what we started out with. So
absolutely. In council's indulgence, I know Chief Birdie, you did a tour with me with the new public safety building. In fact, we have some announcements coming, I think, pretty soon for some open houses there. But you started mentioning some efficiencies in terms of this public safety model, this public safety building, and I asked you to write them down. I think you did. If you don't mind sharing those as well this evening.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Craig Birdie. Well, one thing we did is, in giving some tours of the new facility, we've gone over some efficiencies that take place on the police side and the fire side. And as the mayor said, I made a quick list of them, and I'll go through those if you have any questions. Some of the efficiencies from police to fire are that during the 40 hours a week, there's 168 hours in the week, but 40 hours a week, you can have investigators, administrative positions, can staff some of the fire apparatus and help get those to scenes. We have PSOs on site during training evolutions, can help with cleanup, get over to fire very easily since they're in the same site. The joint station puts all the PSOs, firefighters in the same facility during emergency situations. So some of those things that the director talked about where we're reassigning people, we're all in the same building. We got a large parking lot where we can do training evolutions. We can leave our fire equipment set up. Different people can train in the morning, evening, and night. That's something, or in the afternoon, that's something we can't do now. We have to go off-site for a lot of our training. When the PSOs have downtime, you know, the PSOs should be out doing proactive patrol, enforcing traffic laws, parking laws, doing preventive patrol. On the flip side, when you have public safety officers assigned to fire, During their idle time or downtime, there's a lot of things that they can do for police. And I've made a list here. A PSO that's at the fire station can go to the front and help a citizen in the public lobby. If they're there and the police are all out on calls, they can talk to citizens, they can take walk-in cases, simple cases. They can make some of the callbacks for shift supervisors of the police. If the police are tied up, a PSO that's assigned to the fire side of the building can make some of those callbacks to citizens and resolve things. Other things PSOs assigned to the fire division can do is our PSOs assigned down there take care of our weapons. We have an armory in the new building. They can maintenance our M16s, our rifle, or our M4s, our 9mm pistols, our shotguns. They do the annual weapons maintenance. We have one that's certified, does all of our marijuana drug testing. He can just go next door in the lab and do that during idle time. They can type police reports. One of them takes care of our tasers, does all the computer downloads every month. We have one that takes care of our preliminary breath testers, maintains our supply of OC pepper spray that the officers wear. One is an accident investigator, can do his reports at the fire department. We have one that's a drug recognition expert, can write his reports during some of the idle fire time. One operates our forensic cell phone examination equipment. So when that PSO does a 24-hour fire shift, imagine how many phones and tablets he can download in a 24-hour shift for our detective unit. And they'll all be in the same facility here in a month. Some of them do defensive tactics training, which can be done during idle time, bike mechanics. And this is just a list I came up really just today. There's a lot of things they can do. And because the difference is a PSO that's assigned to the fire division, once you've taken care of the calls and done the work of the day and you've done maintenance and all that, there truly is idle time there, just like there is idle time in policing. On policing during idle time, we expect them to be out patrolling. On fire time, you're still at the station. So there's other efficiencies and things they can do to take care of equipment and take care of our people in the same building. So it just gets more efficient.
You bet. Thank you.
And that's not a complete list either. That's just the things I could think of. That.
Okay, thanks. Anything further from council? Thank you, Chief. Appreciate it. Open it up for anyone else for public comment this evening. Hearing and seeing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed nay. Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you.